And apart from that, if at all we want to roll out some training programs for students as well as staff, right, under the banner of BitGrit, we can do it free of cost, and BitGrit will provide their industry personnel as trainers for the training program. So again, this is totally free of cost. So we are going to get industry connect, and that too free of cost, and we can do certain what we say training programs under the banner of BitGrit. So that is the purpose. So in this regard, I would like to expect a couple of students to come forward and act as campus ambassadors. And for that program, for that particular nominations, we will have a discussion at 12:20 after your third hour before lunch. So I'll try to join at 12:20, and we will have a small discussion, right? And we will try to finalize the names of two students who will act as campus ambassadors, right? So this is a very important and useful opportunity. I hope you people will make use of this one, and you will be representing Spurti Engineering College on BitGrit platform. Right? So we will have a discussion on this one again at 12:20, and we will finalize the names. Meanwhile, we will resume our class. Right? So fine. Coming back to our Unit 3 topics, we were discussing part 3 of Unit 3, right? So KNN algorithm we have seen, right? In continuation to KNN algorithm, there are a few small topics which we will be discussing today, right? Locally weighted regression, then comes radial basis functions, then case-based reasoning. So what is lazy learning and eager learning, we know, right? So KNN is an example of lazy learning. So coming to locally weighted regression. So what do you mean by locally weighted regression? Like K nearest neighbor, like KNN, locally weighted regression is also a classification technique. Radial basis function is also a classification technique. Case-based reasoning is also a classification technique, right? So we will try to understand what is locally weighted regression, right? So all are classification techniques like KNN, but there is some variation. So there is some difference. We'll try to understand what exactly is locally weighted regression. So what is regression? We know very well, right? So if you recollect our heights and weights example, right? We have seen how this y equal to mx plus c can be applied, how we can train a machine learning model by applying simple y equal to mx plus c as the equation to represent the relationship between height and weight, and how we can predict the weight for a given height value, that we have seen in our previous classes, right? Probably in unit 1, I suppose. So that particular example which we have seen is a regression example, and it is called as linear regression. Linear regression means, friends, we have only one independent variable and one dependent variable, right? Of course, dependent variable will be generally one, means outcome variable. So in our example, weight was the outcome variable, height was the independent variable, weight was the dependent variable. So linear regression means dependent variable depends only on one independent variable. So number of independent variables are, if the number of independent variables are 1, then it is linear regression. If the number of independent variables are more than 1, then we call it as multiple regression, right? So for example, I can say based on the intermediate marks, based on the MSET rank, and based on the caste of the person, and based on his geographical location, or what we say zone, we will predict where he can get a seat, right? Maybe engineering seat or a MTech seat, BTech seat, like that. So then the number of independent variables are 3 in this case, right? So if you have more than one independent variable, then the regression is called as multiple regression. So regression is not a new term. Then what is new is locally weighted regression. So what do you mean by locally weighted regression? That is what we try to understand now, right? So we will move on and we will see what is locally weighted regression. Locally weighted regression, right? KNN forms a local approximation to function f is target function. We know that for each query point x cube. So friends, if you try to recollect the KNN algorithm, what we have done in KNN algorithm is, I'll just try to uh, show that. Right, in the last class, B5 was also asking us to revisit step 3 and 4, right? So here, for implementing any algorithm, we need data set. So during KNN algorithm also, we will use the data set. So we must load all training data as well as test data, right? So that is step 1. Simply you can say loading the data set is the step 1. Step 2, next we need to choose the value of k, that is the nearest data point. Nearest data points, k can be any integer. So here please make a note. Generally k will be equal to number of classes, because it's a classification problem, and we know the classes, number of classes we know in advance. Class labels we know. For example, if you take play tennis example data set, in that there were 4 independent variables or 4 parameters or 4 attributes, you can say. They are overcast, temperature, humidity and wind. Based on these 4 parameters, we will make a decision like whether a person will go for playing tennis or not. So the outcome variable was playing tennis, and the possible values in that outcome variables were yes or no. Means there are only 2 classes: either he will go for playing tennis or he will not go, yes or no. So these are called as class labels, yes or no. S is one class label, no is one class label. So we had 2 class labels, right? So since KNN is a classification algorithm, obviously in KNN the value of k will be equal to number of classes only. Now coming to third point, step 3, please read it carefully. For each point in the test data, do the following. For each point in the test data, calculate the distance between test data. Calculate the distance between, one second. Yeah, calculate the distance between test data and each of the training data with the help of any method, namely Euclidean, Manhattan or Hamming distance. But I told you in the last class very clearly, most of the time people use Euclidean distance only. So you have to find the distance, Euclidean distance between the test point with respect to all training data points, right? Then how it will look like, right? New, suppose let me draw this one. So for example, this is my x and y axis. So just imagine these are some data points representing some class, right? This is some data point representing some class. So in our previous example, I think we have used black for test data, right? So let me erase this. Okay, I'll just redraw it again. So this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis, and let us assume pink represents one class, pink represents one class, green represents another class, green represents another class, something like this. Now, for example, suppose somewhere here or maybe somewhere here, I have a black point. This is my test data. Now, for this black point, I would like to know whether it belongs to class green or class pink. Let us say class pink represents one class. Let us say the student may get a seat in one university. Class green represents another university. In fact, in our previous example, we had 3 classes, right? So now I would like to know whether black point, which represents my test data, should come under class pink or class green. That is what I would like to know. So what we have done in KNN algorithm, we applied Euclidean distance. And we were trying to identify based on the distance. Like for example, this is my test data, black point. So I will try to find the distance between Euclidean distance between this black point and green point. I will try to find the Euclidean distance between this black point and pink point. I will also try to find the distance between black point and another green point. Like that, I will try to find the distance between my test data, which is my black point. I will try to find the Euclidean distance between my test data, comma, all other data points, right? All other data points. Let me represent this as all other data points. So T means test data. This is for every, means for every data point, I will find that Euclidean distance between test data and all other data points. I will find the distance. Then I will see, right, my black data point, which is my test data, it is close to how many pink points, and similarly it is close to how many green points. If I feel like based on the distance, if this test data is very close to more number of pink points are closer to my black data point, then I will assume that black data point belongs to class pink only. Or if more number of green points are found to be close to my test data, then I assume this test data to be class green. So finally, this black test data, whatever is there, I have to convert, or I have to represent. So this initially this was a black data, means test data. Finally, it should become either green or pink. Either green or pink. For example, if we think that it is close to pink one, then even it will also become pink. So this is what is KNN algorithm. But here, please think to what extent it is correct to find the Euclidean distance between this point and the points which are very, very far away. Suppose this is my black data point. Suppose this is my black data point which represents the test data, which represents the, suppose this was our black data point, which was our test data. Now please observe this. Do I need to find the Euclidean distance between this point and this green point, which is very, very far away? Do I need to find the Euclidean distance between this point and this pink point, which is very far away? Right? Please observe this. So do I need to find the Euclidean distance between my test data and the data points which are very, very far away? Right? So please respond. Do you think it is really required? Do you think it is really required to find the distance between, as per KNN algorithm, we are supposed to find the distance between data point, test data point, and all other data points, right? So what is your opinion? Do I want to find the do I need to find the distance, Euclidean distance between test data and the points which are very, very far away? Please give your opinion. Do I really need to do so or not? What happens if I consider the points which are very far away? What happens if I don't consider them? Please give your opinion. Please respond. This is important. This is very important. You have to understand why is locally weighted regression came into picture. G388, 514, B5, 508, A3, M0, D5, 1, J0, D6, M6, C7. Not necessary, but required to implement the algorithm. Yeah. Any other answer? No issues. I'll tell you. So what will happen is, please observe here. Suppose, for example, suppose this is my black point. Fine. If you observe carefully, I'll draw some green points also. I will add a few more green points which are very close to this black point. Now, without doing any calculation, simply by looking at the data points, anybody can tell simply by looking at the data points, like, sir, this black one is very close to green dots. More number of green dots are closer to the black data point. So obviously this should come under green class. So anyone can just look at the data sets, look at the diagram, and they can make a conclusion. But just imagine, friends, for example, I have few more green points here. Very far away, right? And suppose I have some other test data apart from this one. I may have some other test data points. Some data point is here, some data point is somewhere here, right? Some data point is somewhere here, right? Now if I have this kind of test data points, more than one test data points, and if my training data is my green and pink data points are scattered like this, if I consider each and every data point, then what will happen is it may not give me correct answer if I have many classes. In this case, I have only two classes, then the risk is less. But if I have many classes apart from pink and green, suppose if I have two more other classes, then in that case, the computational load will increase. I need to find Euclidean distance between my test data and all other data points, all green points, all pink points, all blue points. I need to find Euclidean distance. So which will have a computational cost also. That is one point. Second point, if I have many classes, more number of classes, then this may give me inaccurate classification also. So that's the reason we use a concept called as locally weighted regression. Locally weighted regression, right? So what is locally weighted regression? Means we will try to find, right? Suppose this is my black point and somewhere here I have pink and green points. So what I'll try to do is I'll draw a region. I'll try to identify, like, this is some region, right? I call, like, this is my test data and this is the region which contains points which are local to this test data. I don't want to consider points which are very far away. So this is locally weighted. This is the local region of this black data point. Now what I try to do is I try to apply my normal regression model, where I try to find the, what we say, I'll give some weight to every data point, and again I will apply my normal regression method to identify to which class this black data point belongs to, right? So locally weighted regression says that instead of considering all data, sorry, instead of considering all data points in the KNN, instead of considering all data points, you try to consider only the data points which are very, very close, right? So this is called as locally weighted regression, right? Of course, most likely we expect KNN only in the exam, but not locally weighted regression. But you should know what do you mean by locally weighted regression, right? So coming to the next point, this is again squared error. So we will try to find, what we will do is, see here, locally weighted regression. Why not form an explicit approximation of your function for the region surrounding xq? Xq is our test data. So why don't you find the target function only based on the region which is surrounding your xq, right? Again, after that, between every point you try to find the Euclidean distance, and you will treat that difference as the squared error, mean square error, which we have studied in regression. That will be applied. So here, instead of mean squared error, you can also use distance weighted squared error for all neighbors. NBRS means neighbors, right? So based on that, based on the one which is offering the set of pink or green, the one which is offering less distance, obviously we will conclude our test data to be part of that particular class, right? So going back, so what is curse of dimensionality? We have discussed in the last class, right? Irrelevant attributes, all those things. Locally weighted regression we have seen. Now radial basis functions. This is, you can expect this one as a part A question. I'll show you one diagram which you can draw, right, in your exam also, right? Radial basis function is nothing but, if I use my radial function, what is radial function? I'll show you. Whenever we use radial functions as activation functions inside a hidden layer of a neural network, then we call it as RBF network, radial basis function RBF network. Generally, it is used inside neural network, especially in the hidden layer, right? So how it will look like means, see here. This is called as RBF network, my dear friends, radial basis function network, right? So we have an input layer. This is a normal neural network with a single hidden layer, right? So x1, x2, xn, any number of inputs you can have, and you know very well, for every input there will be some weight, and we will multiply input with weight, and it will be given to the next layer, right? So here actually we should have weights also. So let me write this. So x1, this is x1, right? So there will be w1 also, right? There will be a w2 also, and a w3 is also was missing here, right? Now this is called as hidden layer. You know what is a hidden layer, you know very well what is a new artificial neural network. Of course we use the word neural network, but you know very well these are not neurons, they are perceptrons. They are perceptrons, they are not neurons. What is the difference between neuron and perceptron? Neurons will only allow Boolean inputs and Boolean outputs. We want inputs and outputs to be Boolean or real. Anything should be allowed. So perceptron allows Boolean as well as non-Boolean inputs, and that is neural on artificial neuron does not allow. It will allow only Boolean inputs and Boolean outputs. And in a normal neural network, if you are using only neurons, there will not be any concept of weights, right? And in perceptron, the concept of weight will be there. So if at all we use the word artificial neural network, of course we use the word artificial neural network, but it is implied that inside this you don't find neurons because perceptron has replaced the neuron. So even though we use the word neuron, if we use the word neuron in the neural network, we are actually representing a perceptron because it allows weights as well as uh, what we say non-Boolean inputs also. So here in this diagram, please observe carefully. This you might have what we say activation function is the word which we have discussed. I hope you can recollect that. So why we use activation function, I told you, right? To add non-linearity to the linear output. Try to recollect this activation function. If you remember, we have studied some activation functions like a sigmoid activation function, right? Sigmoid function we have used. Sigmoid. So what is an activation function? If you observe the output of the first layer of the neural network in this diagram, output of every layer will be a linear function because you are simply multiplying weights and inputs and you are simply adding them. It's a summation of the product of weights and inputs. So it will be a linear function. So linear function means it will look something like this. Linear function means you will get some straight line. This is linear function. But what we want is we want some non-linearity. We want something like this, right? Because non-linearity means most of the real-time examples, they are non-linear only. You can't say every time the output should be 0 or 1, right? Output can be anything between 0 or 1 also. Means I want a function to be representing real values. I want a function to be non-linear, and most of the real-time problems, their outputs are non-linear. So to convert a linear output, into non-linear, right? This is linear, this is non-linear. To convert a linear output into non-linear output, we use activation function. One of the activation function which we have already used in our previous chapter of artificial neural networks, it was sigmoid function, right? Sigmoid function, this was the symbol, right? So similar to this activation function, similar to sigmoid function, we can use another activation function which is called as radial basis function, RBF. So if you use radial basis function, then the network is also called as RBF network. Only in the hidden layer, this RBF function is used to convert the linear output into a non-linear output. So what will happen if you try to recollect the diagram which we have drawn, right? This particular neuron or this particular circle, we have represented it something like this. If you remember, we have represented and we have tried to show two parts in it. So first one is h1 of x, which is nothing but this part, sigma of weights into heights. This is h1. Now after that, if you remember, we have also written something called as a1. So this a1 is my activation function, which was applying sigmoid function on the output h1, right? Instead of sigmoid function, if you apply RBF function, radial basis function, then the network is called as radial basis basis function, RBF network. So what is the formula for RBF? This is the formula, friends. So exponent of x minus c by r square, right? So what is this x means? The whatever output you have got, right? Whatever output you have got, x minus of, so h of x in this previous layer, whatever output you got, that is represented by x. C is our cost function value, right? And this r we have to define arbitrarily. This is called as radial, right? So what this r value means, it will vary from problem to problem, and depending upon the size of the network, depending upon the input bias, this r will be decided. right? So to simply summarize what is RBF network means, RBF is a function. The formula for this function is shown here. This is the formula. So if I apply RBF function, what is the purpose of RBF? To convert a linear output into non-linear output. So we use RBF to convert non-linear output, linear output into non-linear output. So it is an activation function and it is used only in the hidden layer, right? So whenever we use this RBF function, then the network is called as RBF network. Generally, it is used in the hidden layers of the neural network, right? So this is called as RBF, radial basis function. So the purpose of RBF is to convert a linear output into non-linear output, just like our sigmoid function, which we have studied in unit 2, right? So that is RBF. Now coming back to the next topic, case-based reasoning. So what is case-based reasoning, right? Case-based reasoning, name itself says case-based reasoning means case to case. So I suppose if I have my training data, I will not do an eager learning, means I will not try to do some classification on my training data. I'll keep quiet, I'll wait. I will use the concept of lazy learning only. But what I do is case-based reasoning means whenever I get any data point, whenever I get any new test data, then based on the features of that test data, I will try to do the classification, right, by looking at the past history or by looking at the previous test cases. For example, to make you understand what is case-based reasoning means, I'll just try to show you the data set which we have used. 1 second. We will use our previous decision tree. Yeah, now please look at this one. So there are 14 records in this data set, my dear friends, and this is not a new data set. We have been using this from past one unit, from past one and a half unit. We are using this particular example. There are 14 records, 4 parameters, and output variable is playing tennis. It will decide whether a person will go for playing tennis or not based on the input data, right? So what is case-based reasoning means? For example, I got a test data. Now what that test data says is outlook is sunny. Outlook is sunny, right? Temperature is maybe mild. Humidity is high, right? Outlook is sunny, temperature is mild, humidity is high, and wind is weak, right? These values were given to me and I need to predict whether this fellow will go for playing tennis or not. So what is the answer? Yes or no? I need to predict, right? So what we will do in case-based reasoning means we have solved this problem by applying decision trees, right? We can also solve this problem by applying naive-Bayes classifier. We can also solve this problem by applying KNN classification model, right? All three can be applied. We have also solved it with using candidate elimination. All classification of algorithms till now, whatever we have studied, they can be applied to solve this problem. And another option, another technique is case-based reasoning. So in case-based reasoning, what we will do is we will try to see recently or in the previous what we say test cases or in the previous examples, did I get any combination which is close to this example, right? Which is close to this one. So outlook is sunny and temperature is mild and humidity is high. So is there any previous case? See here, sunny, mild, high, weak. Of course, this is already an existing example, so I should not take this. I'll just erase this one. Let us assume outlook is sunny, mild, and instead of weak, let us assume this is strong. So this combination is not there. This combination is not there. So what I will do is there any other combination which is close to this one? So outlook is sunny, temperature is mild, humidity is high, three are matching. This is my test data. Whatever I have written with the pen, that is the test data, and I need to tell whether it will be yes or no. I need to guess. So here I want the answer, right? So when the outlook is sunny, when the temperature is mild, and if humidity is high and winds are strong, what will happen? So I will try to see, are there any records which are close to this one? So if you look at record number 8, temperature is sunny, overcast, outlook is sunny, temperature is mild, humidity is high, wind is strong, wind is not strong, it is weak, and output is no. Similarly, I will try to see, is there any other case? See, if you observe in this case, all three parameters, first three parameters are matching. Only the fourth parameter is not matching. So most probably even this one, the output of this test data, maybe most likely the output of this test data should also be no. That is what is my understanding, or that is what is my guess. So what I do is not just one record, I will try to see similarly, are there any other records which are almost same or almost close to my test data. So sunny, mild, humidity is high and strong. So is there any other example, right? Mild, mild, see here, only two are matching in record number 12. So at least out of 4, at least if 3 are matching, then we say that is close. So do you find any MHS or SHS? We will try to see. See here, please observe the record number 2. Record number 2. What is outlook? Outlook is sunny. What is temperature? Temperature is hot. Second parameter not matching. And humidity is high. It is matching. Fourth parameter, winds are strong, it is also matching. But if you see the output of second record, it is no. So this is called as case-based reasoning. So what I am doing is, someone asked me if the training data, if the test data contains sunny, mild, high and strong, what is the output? Output I need to predict. So what I am trying to do is, I am trying to see the cases which are very close to this test data. Record number 2 and record number 8, 3 parameters are matching with my tested data. Only one parameter is not matching. But in both cases, if you observe, the output is no only. So in that case, most likely, for this case also, the output will be no. That's the reason I will write this output as no. So like this, if I come to conclusion by looking at the classes of the training data which are close to test data, then based on that I will come to a conclusion to what class the output will belong to, either yes or no. So if you observe in this example, out of 14 records, 2 records were very close to my test data, because out of 4, 3 parameters were exactly matching. Only one parameter was missing, and in both cases the output was no only. So most likely in this test data also, which is very close to these two cases where output was no, so most likely the test data's output will also be no. So this kind of reasoning is called as case based reasoning. right? So this type of reasoning is called as case-based reasoning. Fine. So I hope case-based reasoning is clear to you, right? What's the time? It's already, yeah. So friends, these are the three small topics which were pending in our unit 3. So these three topics we have discussed, and if you have any doubts, please let me know. But we will discuss them in the next class because already we are running out of time. So please let me know, did you follow today's class? Please respond in the chat box, and in the next class we will clarify your doubts if at all you have any. Otherwise, we will straight away start unit 4. So as of now, did you understand what is case-based reasoning? What is RBF? Please respond in the chat box immediately. Yeah, that's great.